Final Fantasy VII marked many changes for the Final Fantasy series. It was the first title to utilise 3D graphics, the first title to use pre-rendered backgrounds, and even the first title in the main series to be released in Europe. It was also the first game in the series to be released for a non-Nintendo system, with all previous games being released for either the NES, SNES or Game Boy. Going along with the changes in systems, Final Fantasy VII decided to take a much more mature approach than previous games. It was also the first time the game was allowed to be uncensored outside of Japan, with the previous games falling foul of Nintendo of America's strict family-friendly policy of the time and requiring various changes. This led to the title being rated teen by North America's ESRB rating system, with the content descriptors violence, blood, sexual themes, partial nudity, language, crude humour, and use of alcohol and tobacco. And so this video will take a look at the game and some examples of the types of content that led to this rating. To begin with use of alcohol and tobacco. Unlike previous games where bars would be changed to things like cafes outside of Japan, Final Fantasy VII featured numerous bars where the players and NPCs could consume alcoholic drinks. Avalanche's headquarters, the organisation that hero Cloud teams up with at the start of the game, is even based underneath Tifa's and Barrett's bar. Cloud can also sit at the bar and ask Tifa for something hard to drink. Another example is the bar in the Asian-themed village Wutai. Here you can find the Turk members on vacation, and they will talk about you disturbing them and it ruining the booze. As for smoking, a big example of this is the chain-smoking party member Cid Highwind. Cid will be constantly depicted smoking in battles with a small cigarette never leaving his mouth. One of his special limit breaks will even depict him lighting a stick of dynamite with the lit cigarette, and then tossing it at the enemy. Alongside this, the FMVs, which were for the time extremely graphically impressive, will show him smoking too. However, Cid isn't just a big smoker, but also a big swearer. And so with that, we'll move on to Final Fantasy VII's bad language. Final Fantasy VII will often feature characters letting off bad words, although normally these will be censored out with punctuation marks. However, certain words such as ass and goddamn will be left uncensored, and these will appear many times throughout the game. Depending on what version of the game you're playing as well, you will also be able to find various uses of the word shit. In the original PlayStation release, characters will let out the 4-lettered word, including in the ending. For some reason though, instances of the word were later censored in later releases and replaced with punctuation marks, and this is despite the first PlayStation releases still being rated teen. Next up though is blood and violence, something that Final Fantasy VII definitely cranked up a lot for the series' first 3D outing. Blood will be shown in many scenes, one of the most memorable being when you follow a trail of blood across multiple floors of Shinra's headquarters. Here you traverse across 3 huge floors of the building which are completely covered in blood. Another scene from early on in the game that's sure to have left an impression on players is when you see what Sephiroth does to the gigantic snake monster, the Midgar Zolom. The scene depicts the snake being impaled by a large tree, and considering most players would have only just fled from the snake prior to this, it does a good job at setting Sephiroth up as being a formidable opponent. You will also be able to see bloodstained textures in other locations, such as the Gold Saucer's Pit to Coral Prison, which is a large metal pit in the floor with the phrase Gateway to Heaven around it. There's also the boss fight with Sephiroth himself, which shows his face drenched in blood. The general violence can also be rather graphic at times too, even when no blood is shown. Many deaths will be shown on screen, a few examples including the Shinra president being impaled by Sephiroth's sword, a large number of innocent people being shot dead at the Gold Saucer, and of course a certain famous scene. Final Fantasy VII's teen-rated content doesn't end there though, as we'll now move on to by taking a look at the game's suggestive themes. Firstly, when talking about suggestive themes, there's one element of the game that definitely can't be ignored, and that's the whole Wool Market section. In the Sector 6 slums of Midgar is a location called Wool Market, which is a little village sort of area full of shops and other activities. However, Wool Market also has some much darker sides to it, and this is something that you will have to explore when progressing through the story. This section will see you having to disguise Cloud as a girl to infiltrate Don Corneo's mansion. He needs to be a woman due to Corneo being a very lecherous male who has 3 females brought to him every night and then picks one to be what he calls his bride. Needless to say, a lot of the dialogue in these sections will be quite suggestive, with lots of suggestive comments being directed towards Cloud and the girls. It also all culminates into Cloud and the other characters revealing their true identities and then threatening Corneo with chopping, ripping and smashing them off. Them being a euphemism for those things between his legs. One section of the quest to disguise Cloud as a woman will also see you visiting a brothel, where things get even more suggestive. For example, an event that will occur here is Cloud being entertained by a dozen middle-aged men men in shorts. To receive an item for this quest, he ends up taking a bath with the guys and having to put up with them trying to hit on him. The item he then finally receives from them is some underwear. There's much more that goes on here, and in fact, in the early builds of the game, the brothel area was going to be even more suggestive. However, at some point before release, the developers felt that they had taken things too far, and it would be better toned down. To move away from Wool Market though, and onto some of the game's other suggestive themes. One thing to bring up will be the character design for Tifa, one of the main characters and party members who wears a short skirt and is very well endowed. You can even trigger a scene where another character will call her the name Boobs. There's also a scene where you can visit her bedroom and pick what is described as orthopedic underwear from her drawers. Other somewhat provocative scenes include Hojo revealing that he plans to breed Eris so they can perform research for a long time. This is then followed by a scene which seems to suggest that Hojo was trying to force Eris, a female human, and Red 13, a wolf-like beast, to mate. As per usual in the Final Fantasy series, the character design of the Shiva summon will also be quite suggestive. So will the designs of some of the enemies, such as Snow, a humanoid ice-themed enemy. She can also blow kisses at the party and inflict them with the Confusion status effect. Genova's various appearances throughout the game could also be seen as suggestive, with them normally depicting a deformed humanoid female torso. And to finish, there's the design of the party's airship, the Highwind, which has the painting of a woman in a bikini alongside its side. There's of course more examples than these, with the game being 50 to 100 hours long and having many things to do and see, but this should be a pretty good guide for the types of content that the game has that led to its teen rating. It isn't known yet just how much of this is going to carry forward to the upcoming Final Fantasy VII remake, but this is something that's definitely going to be interesting to see, and to see what rating it receives in the process. Do you agree with Final Fantasy VII's teen rating? What scenes are you looking forward to seeing in the remake? Let us know in the comments below, and until next time, thank you for watching.